Tonight on CFTK-TV News, a pair of items that Terrace had for a while are set to return home, some BC hospital tech upgrades are said to have hit some snags, and Air Canada's pilots could be headed for a strike soon.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Good evening, I'm Cale Baslin, and here's what's making the news in the Northwest and beyond for today. In a breaking announcement, BC United Party leader Kevin Falcon has said that his party's campaign for the upcoming provincial election has been suspended, and he also encouraged all his supporters to get behind John Rustad and the BC Conservative Party. This move comes after months of the polls showing that the party formerly known as the BC Liberals has lost a lot of ground to Rustad's Conservatives, despite the fact that the Conservative Party didn't see any of their candidates end up in the BC legislature last election. The decision also came after multiple members of the BC United Party made the choice to defect to the Conservatives. Falcon went on to say that the best thing for BC going forward is to see the NDP defeated, but that it can't happen with the center-right vote being split.
Politics, for me, has always been about doing what is best in the interests of British Columbians. I've spent my entire adult life fighting not only the NDP and their brand of left-wing socialism, but also fighting to unite the center-right. I did that in the 90s when we were trying to bring together the Provincial Reform Party and the BC Conservative Party at the time to coalesce together under the BC Liberal Party. And now as a BC United Party, again, the name is about trying to unite people.
This is not an easy thing to be able to do. The United Party certainly has had 50 candidates that are out there, and it's not just candidates, but it's their teams and all the staff that is behind it, all the people working on these teams. This has created a lot of disruption, and I really feel for that, because I know, for example, we've got 83, 84 candidates now out there, and I know how they feel in terms of if we were in that same situation, and it's not easy. And this will be a process that we have committed to working between the BC United Party with the Conservative Party to make sure that we put the best field forward that we can to bring an end to the destructive policies of David Eby and David Eby's government.
Earlier today at noon, as was decided by the BC Wildfire Service, the Northwest BC Fire Centre lifted their bans on both Category 1 and 2 open fires. And in addition to that announcement, it was also revealed that the open burning prohibition on Category 3 fires will be lifted for the centre as well, but only for some areas of it, namely the Skeena portions of northern districts like the Coast Mountain Forest District. The BC Wildfire Service cited the improvement of overnight recoveries as well as upcoming forecasts as some of the main reasons they lifted these prohibitions. But even with this recent news, it's still been recommended that people check with local authorities before starting a campfire, and that any fire violations can result in fines up to $100,000 if convicted. Announced earlier this morning, the Prince Rupert RCMP are looking for 31-year-old Cameron James Lowe, who was wanted for assault causing bodily harm and escape of lawful custody. The man is described as Indigenous, 5'7", with black hair and brown eyes. The RCMP consider him as dangerous and should not be approached if you see him. You should contact the Prince Rupert RCMP at 250-624-2136 or BC Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477. Two talking sticks that were displayed for many years on the wall of the Terrace City Council chambers will finally be sent home soon, after a timely process of discovering their true origins. CFTK's Jaylene Matthews has the details.
Back in 2016, then Councillor Michael Prevost put a motion on the floor to attempt to repatriate two talking sticks, whose exact origins at the time were unknown.
We looked into that and found out that they had come from this area called Kingcome, but we never really connected properly with the folks there. We were struggling back and forth, and it just kind of fell off the table.
Eventually, a newspaper article about the sticks came to the attention of Marianne Nicholson, an artist and cultural researcher. She believed the sticks were perhaps from her home at Kingcome Inlet of the Kwakwaka'wakw peoples.
And then I had coffee with my friend Luann Neal, and she was telling me she was heading out to Terrace, and I asked her, I said, can you look into this for me? And so when she went up, that's when everything really started to roll.
Marianne sent a photo of the sticks to her nephew Ryan, who's also a cultural researcher. Ryan was able to locate a photo from their archives and identify the sticks as the same ones as pictured.
He scans through the photos to look for our old things, and then he's like, there it is. And it's quite remarkable because it's not very easy to see in the photo, but once you can see it, you recognize, oh, that is it right there.
This will be the first piece coming back to King Cum as a result of recent repatriation efforts from Marianne and her community.
Like I would say thousands of cultural items, information and material left this community over the last 100 years.
The city of Terrace must now decide exactly how the sticks are getting back.
How they're going to get to King Cum is yet to be determined, but we're not, they need to be brought there by somebody. So if somebody from King Cum comes and get them, or if we take them to King Cum, that has yet to be decided. But hopefully we'll be doing that sooner than later and get these talking sticks home soon.
Nicholson says when the works return home, they can go back to being used for their real intended purposes.
You know, our material wasn't actually meant to be seen in galleries. It's actually meant to be part of ceremony, and so with the revival of our ceremonies and the revival of our cultural ways, then, you know, we really need our materials to return home so that we can study them and revive those traditions.
For CFTK News in Terrace, I'm Jaylene Matthews.
Over to concerns about major technology upgrades at some BC hospitals. They haven't been going smoothly, but one of BC's biggest is rolling it out anyway. And apparently some patients are being ejected from Royal Columbian, and some ambulance patients will soon be turned away as well. CTV's Penny Defloss has the report.
Royal Columbian is the biggest hospital in Fraser Health, a level 1 trauma center that handles heart attacks, brain injuries, and the most complex cases in that health authority. Just over a week, it's upgrading from largely pen and paper operations to a purely digital system.
We're going to have some degree of slowdown no matter what we do, because we're asking doctors and nurses to get used to a new electronic record system.
Fraser Health has kept the details under wraps, but CTV News has obtained an internal memo revealing the upgrade to Meditech Expanse is already seeing inpatients kicked out of their hospital beds. Starting next week, some cardiac cases will be sent to other hospitals, and all low-priority patients transported by ambulance will be turned away for the first 5 days of the transition.
Advance is not a change for the sake of change.
Fraser Health has been trying to convince doctors and nurses that growing pains will be short-lived, but Eagle Ridge Hospital saw a third fewer patients than usual for months and still isn't up to 100% of pre-Expanse capacity. Vancouver Coastal Health uses a different system and has had similar problems.
This was a process put in place by the previous Liberal government that was delayed for 6 years with very little action, and that we're making progress hospital by hospital.
We're caught in this weird space where we recognize that electronic health records are important for the future of the healthcare system, but yet this rollout is coming at a very difficult time for the healthcare system. Emergency rooms in Fraser Health having to be closed. Almost all the hospitals are at full capacity.
Fraser Health wouldn't provide anyone to speak on the matter and sent CTV News an email statement insisting it's hearing and addressing staff concerns. It adds, any patient presenting to the hospital will receive the care they need, but multiple frontline sources say they are bracing for patients frustrated with long delays once the rollout begins September 7th. Fraser Health didn't address that, nor patients ejected from the hospital. Penny Defloss, CTV News, Vancouver.
Mounties in West Kelowna are appealing to the public for new information that could help solve a double homicide in Peachland 20 years ago. Police say Dean DeSimone and an unknown male suspect entered a home and got into a shootout with an occupant, Anthony Gorkoff, in April 2004. DeSimone and Gorkoff were killed in the shootout. Mounties say they're still investigating the incident and believe members of the public have critical information that could lead to the identification of the unknown man who was involved that night. Coming up next, school is almost back and coming with a few changes in BC. Welcome back. Hundreds of Air Canada pilots held demonstrations at airports across Canada, including YVR, as a potential strike looms. The union representing the pilots said they want a big pay raise to close the gap between them and their U.S. counterparts. CTV's Ben Nesbitt reports.
Standing shoulder to shoulder in solidarity, Air Canada pilots and industry peers line the departures terminal at Vancouver International Airport as conciliation talks with their employer have officially come to an end.
We're living under a bankruptcy-era contract.
The union representing the pilots says unlike other airlines, Air Canada has yet to correct the pay cuts they took following the 9/11 terrorist attacks to help the company stay afloat. There will now be a 21-day cooling off period. After that, the pilots will be in a legal strike position. They could walk off the job as of September 17th. The main issues are salaries, scheduling, and retirement.
Air Canada has the ability to stop this. They have the ability to prevent flight cancellations. They just have to finally come to the bargaining table and actually present an offer that reflects the value we bring to this airline.
The union says many of its American counterparts make double the money, while last year WestJet's pilots were given a 24% raise.
They raised the bar, and now it's our turn to raise it higher.
In a statement, Air Canada said Air Canada's intention remains to reach a negotiated settlement with its pilots, one that recognizes their professionalism and contributions to the airline. During the talks, there has been significant progress, and the 3-week cooling off period gives the parties more than sufficient time to address any outstanding issues. Air Canada says starting Tuesday, any customers who have purchased tickets between September 15th and 23rd can change their travel plans free of charge. Ben Nesbitt, CTV News, Richmond.
It's only about a week until kids return to the classroom, and when they head back, cell phone use will be restricted. CTV's Abigail Turner has more on the bell-to-bell ban on phones and other changes for the new school year.
A familiar sound for kids returning to class, but now a new meaning for the back-to-school bell.
Every school district will have a policy in place restricting cell phones from bell to bell.
The new ban going into effect across BC this school year, one that will take place for Jaya Wood's final year of high school.
I think it will be kind of difficult just because, we're so used to being on our phones and using them for everything.
An adjustment for the teen who does believe the change is for the better, something her mother echoes.
I think it is a good thing to bring this in for consistency.
The ban was announced earlier this year to support students' learning and protect them from online predators.
As a province, we set out the expectation. Our expectation is a ban on cell phones from bell to bell. How that's implemented in an individual classroom by an individual teacher, we're relying on the expertise, the knowledge of that teacher.
In Vancouver, devices must be off between 9 and 3 o'clock, including recess and lunch in elementary schools, but they can be used during those breaks in secondary schools. The BC Teachers Federation says while teachers are happy to see attention given to classroom needs, there are much higher priorities than cell phones. There's a staffing crisis across schools in BC. While that concern wasn't addressed Tuesday, the Premier did also highlight the beginning of the new protest 20-meter buffer zones, following an uptick of disruptive demonstrations at schools.
A demonstration in Burns Lake where adults were pounding on the windows of the school. Demonstrations in Surrey where individual kids and teachers were targeted.
The Premier says the cell phone ban will be assessed as the school year goes on and the new rules are enforced. Abigail Turner, CTV News, Vancouver.
Turning to tonight's weather, the North Coast will contain periods of rain plus a low at 13 degrees. The Terrace-Kitimat area shall see periods of rain too with their low at 12 degrees. And the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District should see partly cloudy conditions as well as a low at 5 degrees. On the North Coast, the next week or so will see essentially nothing but rain as well as the high shifting from 14 and 17 degrees. In the Terrace-Kitimat area, the week for them will start off rainy and cloudy, but eventually become a bit sunnier and see the high bounce from 16 to 22 degrees. And in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, the upcoming week will actually be mainly sunny before some clouds creep in as their high moves between 20 and 25 degrees. Checking out the highways now, visit Drive BC for the latest and up-to-date conditions, and as always, drive safe out there. On Highway 16, there is a special travel advisory, bridge maintenance, utility work, construction work, crack sealing, paving operations, and the Usk Ferry is out of service due to the low river level. On Highway 37, they have some bridge maintenance and other more regular maintenance. And there is some construction work and road maintenance on the Nishka Highway. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cams. Still to come, an Israeli hostage was able to be saved after being held captive for a long time. Welcome back. Israeli special forces recovered an Israeli hostage from a tunnel in the southern Gaza Strip in what they described as a complex rescue operation over 10 months after he was abducted on October 7th. NBC's Bree Jackson has the latest.
Free after more than 320 days in captivity. Israel Defense Forces say this 52-year-old Israeli man was rescued from an underground tunnel during a complex mission in southern Gaza.
These kind of operations are very, very difficult. The risks are to the hostage as well as potential for collateral damage, civilians who are in the vicinity.
The IDF says the father of 11 is in stable medical condition. The White House welcoming the news in a statement, writing, "The U.S. remains determined to see all hostages held by Hamas, including American citizens, freed." This rescue offering renewed hope for families of hostages. Some spoke at the Democratic National Convention last week.
Needing our only son and all of the cherished hostages home is not a political issue. It is a humanitarian issue.
Elsewhere in the Middle East, after Israel and Hezbollah traded strikes over the weekend, officials say tensions over a wider war have eased.
What I believe now is that it is incumbent on all parties in the region to work towards de-escalation and stability.
Calls for a breakthrough in ceasefire negotiations between Israel and Hamas continue, with hopes of seeing the release of the more than 100 hostages believed to remain in captivity. In Washington, Bree Jackson, NBC News.
And now we turn our attention to the stock markets. The Canadian dollar is down 6/100ths of a cent, the price of gold is down $15.10, oil is down $1.01, natural gas is up 1 cent, aluminum is up $7.50, and Toronto the TSX is down 132.98 points, the Venture Index is down 7.31, in New York the Dow Jones is down 159.08 and Nasdaq is down 198.79. The province said dozens of people experiencing homelessness in Kelowna will soon be able to find a place to call their own. The Ministry of Housing says it's launching the 60-unit project in Kelowna through an agreement between the province and the city. The province says each temporary supportive home will be equipped with a bed, desk, microwave oven, air conditioning, heat, and a small storage space. Mayor of Kelowna, Tom Dias, says it's the third 60-unit temporary housing project that BC announced in the city within a year. Still ahead, a British band is getting back together for another tour. Welcome back. It's a reunion many fans thought they'd never see, but after 15 years, Oasis is reunited. As CTV's Andrea Case reports, the British rock group will take the stage again for 14 concerts across the United Kingdom next summer.
This is it. This is happening.
The Cain and Abel of rock and roll have apparently patched things up. Rival siblings Liam and Noel Gallagher, the founders of the British band Oasis, are reuniting after a 15-year split. They're not only talking, they're going out on tour. 14 dates have been announced for next July and August. They will play solo shows in Wales, Scotland, and Ireland, 4 shows in London, and another 4 in their hometown of Manchester. It'll seat 80,000 people a night.
If this ever goes on like a video, I would apologise, but I'm not going to, because he's a
The brothers publicly broke up after a series of heated, sometimes violent incidents, which include Liam hitting Noel over the head with a tambourine during a show, and Noel cracked Liam over the head with a cricket bat, then smashed the studio they were in to pieces. In between, there was lots of trash talking back and forth. Sacha Lord is an advisor for Greater Manchester. He says this is a proud and huge moment for the city, and for those who doubt they have buried the hatchet,
I'm extremely confident. That was 15 years ago. They've grown up now.
The brothers led the way of Britpop back in the 1990s and sold more than 75 million records. In May, Oasis confirmed the release of a 30th anniversary edition of their debut album, Definitely Maybe. It was the fastest ever selling debut in UK history. It comes out on Friday. No word as how they got back together, but skeptics say the amount of money offered was just too much to turn down. And the cities hosting the shows will also benefit.
It's huge, and you said it, you're quite right. This will bring in about 15 million sterling into the local economy.
No dates outside of the UK have been announced for now, but the talk of this reunion is it's a world tour. Oasis commented in a press release, "The guns have fallen silent, the stars have aligned, the great wait is over. Come see, it will not be televised."
That is all of our news for now. From all of us here at CFTK TV News, I'm Kel Maslin, and thank you for watching. We will see you next time.